Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Comic Book Curation Live. I am Polydub, and this is our special 300 subscriber edition. We're very happy to have a special guest here today. But first, joining me, as always, Inquisitor 8.1. Quiz, congratulations. How the hell are you?
I'm doing fine, but I think you just stole the thunder from our guest.
No, that's not true, because I'm going to get to him soon enough.
Okay. All right.
Jack from Bad Comic Reviews. Jack, congratulations. How are you?
Fine.
Oh,
You?
I'm doing okay. You sound a little low, man.
Nope. Doing awesome.
Okay. And our special guest, the scourge of anti-comics gators worldwide, the copyright infringer extraordinaire, that umbrella guy. Tug, how are you, man?
Hey there. I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Copyright scourge, man.
You have to learn that people's names, as well as their blog posts, are copywritten.
Yes, you cannot talk about what they say. You know, if you overhear a conversation, that is intellectual property. I've gotten it now. I'm like, man, those word balloons, don't grab them out of the sky. I got you.
That I remember watching the Rakita Law. What was that? Last Friday night you were on?
Yeah.
And the extent to the detail of the terms of service that Twitter has in terms of how they own anything and everything you even thought about doing on their platform.
Yeah. If you ever breathe, we own your breath. Yeah. How we may and steal it from your lungs. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And it mentions not only using technologies that currently exist, but any other technologies that might be developed in the future. Yes, those two. And it makes it pretty clear if you're putting it up on Twitter, it's not something that you can copyright in terms of tweets. So I'm not really certain on the basis. I mean, that would be wild. I mean, anybody who's talking about what people are saying on Twitter, all the way down to CNN and Fox News, and anybody who repeats somebody else's tweet would be in copyright violation if that was the case.
Well, do they get the expressed written consent of the National Football League?
I saw some weird stuff with the NFL. They were talking about their hiring standards, actually. There was some weird discussion going on, talking about basically, all this stuff we talk about in comic books. Well, apparently there's some of that in the NFL too. You know, there's identity push, and it's very bizarre. It was a very, very bizarre conversation.
Is everybody going mentally ill? That's bizarre to me that the NFL is having this problem.
Yeah.
Well, you remember people like Colin Kaepernick are in the NFL.
Yeah, but you're bound to get a few people that are like special needs with head injuries. You just wouldn't expect it to be this many of them.
Well, no, I fully expected to be this many of them, but you know.
So speaking about head injuries.
While we're on that topic.
Tug, in case you didn't know, some of us are slightly offensive. So apologies in advance.
Oh no, slightly.
We don't want to hurt your channel.
You do realize, like, I live stream with Yellow Flash, right?
I was just going to say, we tend to cuss like Yellow Flash does when he's on Stream Me. I mean,
this is we stuff. I'm a saint.
I know Yellow Flash. He's a spicy guy. He's saucy. I love his content. And then I went and watched him on stream, and I was like, yo! I enjoyed it though.
Yellow Flash is great.
Speaking of which, why does Yellow Flash pull down the riffing commentaries that you guys do on public property movies?
So we don't get flagged for some of that. He's afraid of it after he lost live streaming and actually super chat function on one of his channels because he got flagged for a copyright violation. And after that, they took his super chat function away as well. They didn't give him a copyright strike, though. They didn't strike him. They just banned him for live streams and took away his ability to make any type of revenue. So that's particularly dirty and heinous. But
this was on his first channel, not his second one.
Yeah, that's correct. That's why, I mean, he has a monster channel out there, but these days he's he's one of the bad boys. So of course.
Which I don't understand. Like there's other people with other channels. He's just one of those guys that gets unfortunately focused on by YouTube or by the algorithm, or has offended a particular fandom that is constantly striking at him. I don't know. I'm not sure what it is.
Probably reporting you all the time, and maybe that caused him problems. You know, he was not monetized before everything. See, I think there's this weird thing with all of this, this comic book conversation where a lot of the critics, you take the lumps, and a lot of people come in, and you know they it helps them even a field there. You basically, you know, you pound out the ground, but you take the lumps for doing that. And I think Yellow Flash has done that quite a bit. He's pointed out in a particularly, you know, some people would call offensive way. I think it's very just matter of fact. I actually like his style there, but you know, in current year, that style offends the shit out of people. And yeah, he probably would never get a channel monetized doing that, you know, not after the ban list and all of that, or the blacklist and all that stuff.
I think he got a particular lot of traction with anti-comicsgaters with the you know, the stuff that ran about him. Is like, not only did he stab the comic, but he stabbed the POC on the cover. What are we to think of this?
Oh yeah.
And it was like, she was kind of in the center of the comic. I don't really
That's just magic. No, actually, you know, Yellow Flash, what's funny about it is they can't understand that he loves that kind of stuff. Like Sienna Grace saw him and said, "Oh my God, I'm waiting for him to cut off his finger." And Yellow Flash responded, he said, "Man, can you imagine the hits I would get for that?" You know?
Yeah, right.
I was like, yeah, damn straight, you would.
You know what? Okay, so that was Sienna Grace who said that to him?
Yeah, Sienna Grace.
I mean, we're talking.
He needs to take a copy of Iceman out to a gun range.
I'm just gonna say, like,
just take it to the next level.
This is a quote comic pro. You know what I mean? And that was something I said in your chat the other day. It blows my mind. They can't have it both ways. Meaning critics of Comicsgate, that it's like Comicsgate is nothing but a small group of angry, discontented alt-writers, white males, etc. You know, and they do not represent the overall comics group, but it's like, but we seem to have a lot of your attention and hold on to it. And that's weird if we're just a small group of malcontents. Why do you care? Why do you even respond then? If it's just
not just that, nuts? Okay. Bleeding Cool voted diversity in comics as one of the top 10 influencers in comic books in 2017. So a dude with a channel that's less than 100,000 subscribers can impact industry to that level. So yeah, you know, they can't have it both ways. Either we're just a few boogeymen out there, or we are powerful, and we are powerful. We can, we have a narrative that people understand. That's the thing. They don't understand that we're not powerful. It's that they have made themselves powerless, and they've taken away the voice that fandom wanted, that fandom should have. And well, we found it.
I don't like, I tend to think, is it just some people that are thin-skinned, like meaning those who are going to respond? Because the majority of comic book artists, if you think about like the hundreds and hundreds of them are across the big 2+ Image, Boom, everybody else, they're not engaging in this. They're just sort of backing up to go along, to get along with the people with the loudest megaphones who do this stuff all day long, or are willing to engage with it all day long. Is it just that it's some thin-skinned comic book people? Or is it like, you know, I don't work at Marvel. I don't know what the vibe is like in that place.
I think it's a culture, man. I think you've got a new culture that's in there, a new paradigm like you're talking about. In this day and age, when you look at it and you look at, you know, what being a progressive is like. If you look at imagine an industry that's ran that way, you're going to have people that, like you said, they'll go along to get along. But I see names that come out, either they're afraid and they walk that line, they get louder. I've oftentimes wondered that if you're in this thing and you know that people will demonize you because of, you know, sexuality or because of the color of your skin, and you look in the mirror and you fit all of the categories that are wrong now, what do you do? I mean, do you walk silently? Do you pick up the megaphone and you just scream loudly hoping people will overlook you? What do you do? And that's great. The only problem with that is we are playing with our money and screw them. I don't care what their issue is. And I don't have faith in them. After I see people like Jeff Lemire that can't keep his freaking trap shut, he has to come out. I don't care what he thinks about you. He should respect my dollar. He doesn't have to respect me. He has to respect my dollar. I have to respect his if he comes to my place of employment. So
isn't that Kwanzer's line arguing in that interview that comic books is not a customer service medium? And it was like, but it is.
Yeah, but Kwanzer's kind of dumb.
I saw an argument yesterday. I was actually setting up a video on it, and I'm going to have to paraphrase the quote. I can't remember it. It was talking about comics. It was by I can't remember, like maybe what's his name, Palmiotti, or God, I can't ever pronounce his name right. But
Jimmy Palmiotti.
Yeah, there you go. I think it was him actually. Maybe I'll pull that up here. Let me see. He was talking about how comics basically is underpaid, though. It's a profession where you're not going to get paid well. You're going to basically move past. You get no you get no pension or anything else. You have to sell signatures, in order to make money, because you can't make your money on the page. And I thought, so these people that are telling me that, and again, this is not aimed at him. I'm not aiming at the idea. So the people that tell me personal versus professional, I can say whatever I want on Twitter, that say that the name on the page, that doesn't mean anything there, are the same people that tell me your name has value. So if you're in that kind of dire disarray and your name has value and you have to even sell that thing, then why the hell act like this? Aren't you?
Yeah, aren't you just tarnishing your name if you're doing that? Yeah, that's a very good point.
Well, he said, here's his quote. I see it now. Making comic books is a low-paying job with no benefits, no vacation time, and royalties that are non-existent most of the time. Just giving you a heads up, when you fussed at creators trying to sell their wares or charging you for signatures, most cannot survive on making them. So, yeah, I mean, if you're tarnishing that, and it goes to what you were just saying, like are they a customer driver? Yes, they very much are a salesperson for. I mean, it's ridiculous to think that you don't represent the brands that your name is tattooed on.
But I think the brand that they're interested in is not the one that we're thinking of in terms of like customer service. The idea of like selling good comics. You have Marvel positing itself as a lifestyle brand, and then when you hear the kind of lifestyle that they're promoting, it's not a boy brand, it's a people brand, a lifestyle brand. I mean, that's so vague. What does it mean? And you kind of get the idea that it's a very progressive brand, which is what I think most people who would say that they're comicsgaters or support comicsgate mean when they say that there's politics in comics that doesn't need to be there. And people will argue that, well, Captain America punched out Hitler. Yeah, that's not what we're referring to.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's not even the fact that it's about the politics involved, right? I have no problem with people making, a conservative comic and a liberal comic. That Green Arrows has always been a very liberal character, but at the same time, it's the fact that these sorts of things are becoming the only thing that they talk about. That you have to make an anti-Trump book, or you have to make an anti-Trump statement. You can't be anything else. And it more people have a more nuanced opinion than just straight up Orange Man bad, right? Mm-hmm. So when they sit there and say you have to be like this, otherwise we'll blackball you, we'll push you out and make you persona non grata. Either they'll make it so that you don't get any more work. They'll say that you're, quote, hard to work with. That's the sort of thing that happens. That's the sort of thing that I think is intrinsic with that sort of do or die partisanship that we're seeing with the level of politics in comics. It's not necessarily the fact that there is a political message in the comic. That's not the problem. The problem is that these people are trying to make that a mouthpiece for their own comics, or for their own political agenda, and shunning anyone who has any sort of nuanced or opposing viewpoint.
And what I find annoying is the the talking points in response to this is that you just don't like any characters that aren't white males. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, no, it isn't like that at all. It's the replacement of characters as opposed to the embellishment and revigoration of old characters like Black Panther, which was done really successfully. Great character, great backstory. We talked about that a lot here on Comic Book Curation. That's the way to do it. Marvel has a huge pantheon of characters. If you want to revive one of them and go back into that, there's thousands of characters from back in the day. Diverse as fuck. Pick one and do it, as opposed to making Hulk Korean, Thor a woman, Iron Man dead and replaced by Riri Williams, and you know the list goes on and on and on. It's like, well, you just don't. No, I just don't like replacement and destruction of characters. And when they do something new, it ends up looking like this. American Carnage #1 exposes the ugly side of the American dream. Like, what the hell's going on over at the Vertigo imprint?
I think we all know the answer to that, and it involves shoveling crap.
I remember when Vertigo was good. I really do.
Well, the final straw with me with Vertigo was this. I was looking at a statement from the writer of Border Town. He said after Border Town 2 dropped, he did I can't remember the publication that he did an interview with, but in it he said that people were not carrying his comic. We're talking about LCSs because they didn't want Mexicans there. They didn't either want them in the comic. He said there. So I don't know if he was talking about Mexicans in the shop or Mexicans in comic books. Now, to be able to accuse the actual customer, you know, they always say that comic book shops are their customer, not us. The comic book shops are their customer. So to go out and to crap on every one of them and call them all racist, come on.
Well, that's sort of cutting off your nose to spite your face at that point, right? They're saying we don't want Mexicans in their comics. But what are you talking about? Here's
the quote from that article. I was pulling it up while we were talking about it. So it's maybe 4 sentences, but I think it's worth hearing. So the thing that has hurt me the most is that there are a lot of people that tweet me and Facebook message me that don't know me, that are excited about the book, who go into their local stores and sign up for local subscriptions and try to order it, and the stores refuse them. Before it was sold out, they just didn't want to order it because of content, because of the characters. That kills me. I want to believe that all comic book readers are trying to be Batman and are virtuous, cool people. But a lot of stores just didn't want Mexicans in it, and they didn't set up a subscription books for them, or a book subscription for them.
Yeah, I don't believe that for a second. That never happened.
What a bunch of crap.
Yeah, it's like those fake hoax hate crimes, you know, where they go out and they spray paint swastikas on their own cars so they can start a GoFundMe.
Or you get the retards like Sarah Silverman misidentifying construction signs saying, I can't believe there's so many Nazis.
Or this guy posted over and over again about, hey, we're going to go to San Diego Comic-Con before, ICE, don't tell them here. And account that had barely ever posted said, it looked like a sock account. It basically posted to them, we're not sending ICE, we're going to send exterminators. And they were like, oh my God, hate crime. And we're going to be brave, and we're going to Twitter announce how brave we are about this. I was like, well, you're apparently not very scared if you're,
Yeah, right.
Well, okay, we've been talking generally around things that are going on in the industry and industry culture from what we can tell from the outside, from tweets and different stuff that your boy Zach will get through his industry insiders that he'll talk about. We have had Jim Healis on a number of times, and he's got some interesting thoughts on what's going on in the industry. And we're kind of like, the claim, Tug, about like, well, this can't go on for long. And you discuss and look into very well what's going on with IDW and their financial state, to be very nice about it. They're in a precarious position, to say the least. How much longer do you think Marvel can keep doing what they're doing in terms of reissuing #1s, upping cover prices, doing special editions of the thing getting married for $8 or $9 cover price, and so on, and restarting series like happened with Tina Grace's Iceman and so forth before it sort of collapses in on itself, and what is that going to look like? Jim had some interesting thoughts on this. I'd like to hear what you think.
I think you collapse the public. Okay, would Marvel would continue to do it indefinitely despite sales? I personally believe, because comic books don't matter to Marvel. What matters is putting your butt in a chair to watch a movie, and in my opinion, comics are the safeguard of that. Comic books are what risk do they take anymore? If you look at some of the lines they bring back, you know that they are money loss. In fact, giving away an extra 100% of Iceman, you're not making money with that. But what you're doing is safeguarding a specific type of headline, because they know you're going to go watch those freaking movies. But the people that they want to go and enjoy those shows or introduce in these characters to and get their butts in the theaters so they can make like Black Panther. If you look at Black Panther, it made after you just look at profit versus profit for Marvel, you're talking about 4 years of running Marvel profit wise off of one movie or maybe more. So yeah, I mean, which really matters? As long as Marvel doesn't, dead loss money, they will never care. The problem is that you crash the distribution side of this thing. What happens when you kill the LCS? Because they're killing them at an obscene rate. You talk about like 2,300 left. You dropped 50 last year.
Yeah, it's an endangered species, to be sure. But to me, it's like, okay, so Diamond can't support the distribution, let's call it what it is, cartel that they've been running for the last little while. And it's like, so, and there are no more LCSs, at least enough to ship to in the ways that they've done before. So they can print en masse because Disney has deep pockets and can keep Marvel afloat, and they want to run Marvel as a IP farm. Cool. But who are they shipping them to?
Well, I heard an interesting, somebody told me something about some higher up Diamond people, and, they agree with what we're talking about. And the reason for that is not necessarily agreeing with the talking points, but rather that they hurt the bottom line. Because like you said, they've been running like a cartel out there. They control everything. And why would they want a Marvel or something coming in and screwing that up? The only problem is you're really looking at companies, the way that they're set up. They can fail, but in their own bubble, they literally are too big to fail. You can't lose a Marvel without losing comics, pretty much. So, Diamond they're the monopoly. They're stuck with the Marvel. I think it's an interesting dichotomy, but you're not going to see the way that this goes. You're not going to see change, I don't personally think, until the first doves wear off. And we're going to get, we just got another, Shang-Chi, the movie that was announced.
Yeah.
We've got another first dove. It's going to be a first Asian American, centered movie with an Asian American director, an Asian American sensitive casting, and so on. I mean, that's how it's advertised so far. So you're going to get all these first doves, and
the first kill me. We were looking at this one last night. The Blue Beetle movie gives us our first Latinx superhero to headline their own film. The first awesome. Never stop, and it was my original suspicion. Excuse me, that it was to do stuff like this in terms of what was it, Batgirl 45 that we did quiz as a separate video, the first trans wedding to happen in comics, and then it's America Chavez, of course, is the first gay Latinx superhero.
Stop saying Latinx.
It sounds like a type of it sounds like a racist Kleenex type, does it not?
Yeah.
Latinx.
And we won't point out how that's not how Spanish works, and it's fine. It's
that's
fine.
A hate fact.
See,
my original suspicion was that they were doing this because if you look up, like if you go on to Google or DuckDuckGo, whatever you use, and you type in America Chavez, you will find a couple of things comics related, but then you will find New York Post and CNN repeated articles about it being the first, and I thought originally they were doing this to that splashy, sensational title that New York Times is going to cover this in their entertainment section. Because of that, they were doing it for the advertising factor. That happened with the trans wedding issue, and I thought, oh, okay, that's why they're doing it. I don't think that's why they're doing it anymore. I changed my mind. I think they're doing it because they want to promote this, and it's like, if we put this out there, it will normalize what we think should be normal. And I'm not saying it isn't normal. It's just it's clearly political. It's clearly ideological.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. It's not. What basis does it have within that comic? How exactly does that help that comic series along? I saw the weirdest thing. So I was going through all that stuff with Lion Forge, you know, the thing that Gail Simone has taken over, that whole line, and they're laying off people. They lay off 12 of 60 people now suddenly. So I was looking at Gail Simone's pitches for it, and one of the things I found buried in there were talks about family values from the same people who wanted to bulldoze those within superheroes. Now they talk about, we're going to bring family values back because this is their new pitch. Now, current year dictates that there's a different dichotomy to add in, and all of these things, all of these new qualifiers, they override actual content for story. They consider that story the first trans wedding. That's not a fucking story. You know, a story is, you could work that in, but normally we would be talking about, like, you know, there may be two big characters getting married within something. You know, maybe we might be looking at the Batman Catwoman fiasco that there was, but you know, normally that would just be a side issue. Oh, some people got married in Galactus attacks, you know? So there you
go. hang on. I got 3 points here. First of all, hi, Mike Parletti. Second
Mike.
Of all, now, when you say family values, though, what does that mean to somebody like Gail Simone? Is it going to be like a single mom with a bunch of cats and her kids transitioning? Because they've redefined every other word that we know.
I was going to say, no, for Gail Simone, it literally is just cats.
Well, yeah.
I would
just venture. Stacks of cats. It's like, she just, yeah.
They're called fur babies, you guys.
Oh, my God.
And number 3, were these people really laid off, or did Gail eat them?
Okay, look, Gail Simone wasn't always like that. Let me just bring a little...
Okay, again, need I bring up, you know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. There's nothing wrong with pointing out when people do something good. A couple of comic book curations ago for our pitches, I actually pitched a Gail Simone comic. I actually really enjoyed Clean Room, which was a Vertigo imprint before the newest Vertigo imprint. We don't want to go into that.
I thought you were going to say, like, maybe the Conan Wonder Woman. I was fixing to drop. No.
No.
Yeah, I would probably join you in that protest.
Yeah, no. I really liked Clean Room. Clean Room was a fairly original story. It didn't carry. Let's put it this way: I didn't know who Gail Simone was when I read Clean Room, and then when I found out who Gail Simone was, and I found out that she was the one that wrote that, I was all like, "Fucking really?" I didn't. It did not compute. Let's put it that way. It's so out of the norm for her. But
Leaving Megalopolis, or however, you know, I like the Kickstarter one that she was on. It's basically a superhero gone mad tale. I liked it. You know, there was a lot of superhero killing and insanity. Was it particularly creative? No, but it was all right. It was good, I thought. Yeah,
and I say so. It's not the fact that these people, you know, have no talent or have no drive, ambition, so on and so forth. It's the fact that what they're doing with what they have and the platform that they have, you know, that's my dream job would be to work for Marvel, and they're just pissing it away with bullshit.
Okay, well, I hear what you're saying. I don't even disagree, but to me, the question that fascinates me is, okay, was she always like this? Did she become like this, or was she like this underneath it all and wasn't able to? And now the current year environment enables her to be like this.
Like 1999 fridging and all of this content.
It was the fridging.
No, I have a theory behind this. Sorry to interrupt, guys, but I have to get my theory out.
Go.
The fridging thing was a psychological damaging effect for her, because Ron Mars, who created the whole woman in a refrigerator thing in Green Lantern, it terrified her so much because Gail spends a lot of time at the refrigerator.
No. I got a better one. This is my theory on it. So Gail Simone was actually triggered because he put a normal sized woman in the fridge, and Gail, she has to butter her knuckles just to reach in and get a
Yes, and she tends to lick the butter off, so she has to keep coating it.
She drunk calls Ethan, and she's like, "Come here and sing the butter song."
Look, whale Simone isn't the point. The point is what happens underneath isn't it though? Like I love the suggestion that one day she's normal, all of a sudden this fridging thing happens and she snaps and has never come back. Like, does that sound plausible to you? Come on.
Yes, because some people have like a fear of clowns, and the first time they go to a circus, not realizing that's the natural habitat of evil, they see the clown and they're like, "Oh my God, there's a bunch of them here." She was terrified that the next time she opened her fridge, there was going to be a hacked up girl in there. And, you know, it's pretty terrifying. Like somebody took
and now the added fear of Ethan Van Sciver curled up licking bars of butter. You know, yeah, that's look.
That's a different phobia. Okay,
let's take it. Well, I'm afraid. I mean, it's
a story. You know, Spike Valentine he's never told me this story yet. You need to get him to spill this to you one day. Apparently, Gail was visiting Mexico. And Spike had to take her to go rescue her husband from the pyramids. He ended up getting lost somehow. And he was telling part of it. I was like, holy crap, that's a great story. So
let's take it away from the blue hairs for a quick second in terms of the point that I'm saying underlay this. Take Alan Moore. Okay, brilliant man. Writes The Killing Joke. Legendary masterpiece, okay? Now he's worshiping a bundle of sticks at night dressed in clothes that he made for himself. Like he's gone full crazy hippie. Was he always like that? And somehow he was just kept in check, and then he just went nuts in an environment that allowed him to? This is what I mean. Like, I look at these people online and I think, what do you do when you're not typing these things or in these interviews? Like I wondered, like, does Mark Waid rage out when he's by himself in his home alone?
I would like to think not, but they probably are. I think people, change over time, and especially in the sort of cultural environment that we find ourselves nowadays, it's sort of, been made possible for these people to express something that maybe they might believe at least a little bit, or were taught in college, which I think is a major enabler for this sort of thing. I mean, I went to college in the extremely early 2000s, so I kind of missed all of this stuff. But some of the people that I talked to that were in grades lower than me, they were telling us about these mandatory social awareness programs and stuff like that. I think that sort of thing is crammed into your throat, and you're forced to either memorize the content or take to heart the content. So when it comes to, covering your ass socially, you have to value these things that otherwise, sane people or people that were born before these, sorts of things became the standard. Everyone's just sitting there looking at them like they're crazy.
Forced on your throat. Hashtag me too.
I could appreciate the idea you're saying about indoctrination in college. I work at a campus every day, so I know what it's like. But Mark Waid, if you went to college, that was back in the 1960s, and I picture this guy stubbing his toe in his house alone and screaming out, "God damn you, Trump!" Like it's
because he's a rock star. In this stuff, he, in his mind, we have built shrines to their narcissism and their petty little egos. And we hold, who are the biggest names out there? I mean, you brought up Alan Moore. Alan Moore, people worship that guy. They've basically let him do whatever he wants to do. If you look at his behavior, people just say, that's Alan Moore. The guy is off his freaking rocker, man.
Yeah, he is.
He's certifiable. And I mean, like, Gail is a terrible human being. Freaking Mark Waid is a terrible human being. They have rock star mentalities, and do they deserve them? No. They need a reality check on what they do for a living. Maybe we need a reality check as fandom. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe we have enabled disgusting, reprehensible people to become the worst embodiments of self.
I think a lot of that comes back to Wizard Magazine promoting the shit out of these guys back in the 90s. And that's where a lot of this kind of started, was they were getting this rock star press coverage from this huge magazine.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that, Tug. It's the whole bit about, you know, making this you know, ego, this massive ego. And Wizard Magazine, that's a good point too. Also, you know, you got to think now. I'm going to bring something up, and I'm going to be a little bit hypocritical in it too, because there are some people I think deserve it. Is things like the Eisner Awards. The Eisner Awards are like, you know, the fucking
Oscars.
The Oscars for comics, right? Now, do I think that some of the people that have won Eisners deserve it? Absolutely. I think Bill Willingham is one of the best writers like ever. And I think that he's well deserved of his several Eisner winners. But at the same time, I also think that it's feeding into this sort of celebrity ego that some of these people may not, you know, it destroys the idea of humility.
Well, when you're special and you think you deserve special things, then of course you're going to already have, you're going to be predisposed to being one of these narcissists. I mean, they're brought up with participation awards for everything. So of course they're already in their little hug box, everybody telling them how awesome they are. Of course they think they deserve this kind of treatment. And they've got a little bit of celebrity, and it goes to their heads.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about where it started with Wizard Magazine. Okay, I can appreciate that, and like the relentless sort of softball questions and hagiography interviews that were done with them at the time. Okay, but I think it's reached like full on crazy status with online, because you can develop an e-celebrity that's unheard of anywhere else. Like Mags Visaggio comes to mind as one of she's celebrated online in a way. It would be hard to, you'd have to be a really grounded, self-possessed person to not allow the kind of fandom that she has run amok. People just tweet her to say, I love you, you're awesome. And we were reading through some of her tweets last night, Jack, and it was like so stream of consciousness. Like she's just talking about like, I just brushed my teeth, I went over here and did this, and people like those tweets.
Yeah,
so it's not like
crazy.
But when you're willing to call yourself, currently she's stupid bitch energy on Twitter.
Yeah, if I went through the stream of consciousness, you know, I would get maybe 3 out. Hey, I just brushed my teeth, and there would be, you know, comments like, you know, why don't you shut the fuck up? You know, whatever. Get offline. You know,
2 hours.
Apparently,
here, let me violate her copyright right now.
You monster!
She tweeted out 2 hours ago that new furniture high is real. It got retweeted. People have commented upon it, and 23 likes. Like, what the fuck?
I'm picturing this fat woman leaning over, sniffing her furniture, trying to get high off the fumes, as like a half a dozen cats come around meowing at her, demanding to be fed.
Still stuck on Gail. Is that what you're telling us? You're still stuck on Gail.
And her bio, to bring it back to what we were just talking about, is Eisner nominated comic writer. Now, Jim Healis, when he was on before, he said, now hold on, guys. What happens if Mags 10 years from now writes a masterpiece that you love? And I'm like, you know, that stuck with me, and it got me thinking, and I was like, okay, fine. But that is a country mile away from what's going on right now, where whatever she writes is, you can't criticize it, or otherwise you're transphobic. I consider her trans status to be the least interesting thing about her, not to denigrate her as a person, but it would be more like, Mags, why would you expect somebody who hasn't met you, doesn't know you as a person at all, to want to support you in what's going on in your personal life? That's your personal life. Aren't you a professional? Don't you care what they think more about your professional work than the fact that you're a trans person doing this professional work? I would have thought so.
Yeah, that's like, you know, for me, the sort of mentality isn't the fact that, you know, you said it's the least interesting thing. I think it's irrelevant. The fact that she's trans is completely irrelevant to me.
Well, I've said it before. I think they should go back to the 80s format where they put nobody's name on the cover. And your name is just inside the book, and it's small print on the background somewhere, like on the side of the building or something. And they go back to that, because putting the names on the cover is a small thing on the surface, but it really feeds into that ego.
Oh, shit. The pitch for I have tonight doesn't have a name on the cover.
Well, you see the ego though, but I mean, my God, combine that with instantaneous, celebrity ego. Combine that with instant access. Man, it's what I've been saying for a long time. Social media, that is the meteorite that crashed in and it killed this dinosaur, this thing we called the comic artist image. That thing that was out there that you had editorial fixing and whatnot. It's dead now. There's nobody in there these people need to hire some freaking PR teams, because what goes now, hopefully sooner or later, the same stuff that flies now, it won't fly, years in the future. And the celebrity too does not translate at all. When you look at mags, one of the most known things I can remember about mags is trying to fund gender reassignment. And spent years talking about wanting to do this, can only manage $6,000. So that's not good at all. That says that this doesn't translate to anything. I remember, when that Universal Fan Con hit too. I think that's it was such like this meteorite of disappointment for these people,
but
because
the promotion that happened, everybody was talking about it. Black Geek Nerds was the supporters behind it, and it was inclusive.
You think about their following,
8 tickets.
Look at their size, the followings of their sizes. I mean, the size of their following, the followings of their sizes. I was like, wait a minute, that's
sure.
Let's reverse that. But anyway, I mean, when you look at the amount of people they had, they would have tens of thousands of retweets and all. And like you said, the ticket sales,
I mean, that
must get into single digits.
I mean, I actually have empathy for that. Like there's laughing at somebody that I mean, you don't want to see somebody fail, but when somebody fails that hard, it's like, ooh, well, I didn't want to see you crying.
Yeah.
I read something else, and it was never picked up because all these media sites, they loop themselves in, they push this stuff. So they became, they at least became part of the victimization process. But the guy who was over that, there was one fellow that came up with it. He had also created some kind of pride parade that turned out to be a hoax several years before. It was also a ripoff. That was his second. That was his second major ripoff, and never got picked up. I thought that was very interesting.
And it does translate over with you never know what the individual motivations are for various people doing various things. Like, so Vox Day is a good example. I'm gonna come along and name this comicsgate thing. I don't think he cares anything about comicsgate. He doesn't have the infrastructure to be able to do kind of like run the imprint, run the comic press that he claimed that he was going to. He's just trying to ride the wave, as it were.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people inside of comic books, like at the big two, at Image, at Boom, and where else, they're riding the wave. They don't really think these things. I mean, it has to go both ways. If there's Vox Days, and there must be people inside the industry proper that are doing it as well, no?
Yeah. I mean, anybody who thinks they can make $1. The problem is, like, can you really make $1? That's the question a lot of these folks are not asking themselves. It's based on, for the longest time, I wanted to be in IO, industrial psychology or organizational psychology, depending on
industrial and organizational psychology. I did that in undergrad.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it's a great field, but it shows you all of this. It shows you what they think behind it. When you really think about how that's set up, because they're putting their marketing foot forward. I think back to an undergrad thesis I did was, trying to basically check reactions on, just sales types. It was a very boring to people. I won't go over all of it, but it was looking at marketing strategy only by changing up certain descriptors or, certain either cue descriptors like coloration or word descriptors. And you see people that respond to word descriptors, but can you do that in this age? And especially when you're trying to get people like, that identify as socialists and on that, don't have money. What about that crowd? Like, okay, you won them over. Now what? What are you going to get them to pay in? Pocket lint and failed dreams. I mean, is that what they're going to buy comics with?
Well, what
sweet socialist dollars.
So we were talking about those deep Disney pockets and how it's going to keep them afloat. And our best guess because I mean it is a guess, we're not insiders.
I wanted to bring up one thing about that too, because Tug had mentioned before about how the comics are like a means to an end, that the comics are the source material for the movies, right? What happens when the movies don't start drawing people in? I mean, we've seen that with Solo. Solo, was a major bomb. I think personally that when Captain Marvel comes out, that's going to be a major bomb. It's going to bring down the numbers for Avengers 4. And when they eventually, because what was his name? Feige, the head of the Marvel MCU thing, said that the future is looking very female.
Mhm.
What happens when they make an America Chavez MCU movie?
Well,
Are we gonna see people, butts in seats for that one? Because I don't think so.
How are they going to make a 2-hour movie of somebody making sandwiches for me?
Oh my God.
Well, what they got to do, see, they didn't, okay, the Black Panther, they didn't add anything to the movie. That's the thing. It's a run-of-the-mill superhero movie. Is it bad? No, it's normal. It's the same formula, except they put in something that was a descriptor that brought in extra people. What they're going to do, what they're going to fuck up, is they're going to make a movie change. They're going to make a bad movie. And when they do that, instead of making a run-of-the-mill movie, that's when you're going to see this stuff blow up.
Yeah.
We had decided that it was like so they got the IP farm thing going on with Marvel, and when the films go down, you'll see a restructuring, and it's not that like Marvel's going to get like shut down and they're going to shutter the doors and everyone pink slips, take the stuff out of your desk. It's going to be okay, we just need to reorganize get some different management leadership in here to go in a different direction. That's my best guess as to what would happen. IDW and the like is who I find fascinating, because I keep thinking back to what happened with Enron. That was a fascinating industrial.
Everybody, IDW has fired everybody. So
and Enron was getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and you had Andy Fastow as their chief financial officer playing these loan games where he was operating a separate business that existed only to come up with temporary loans to be able to push Enron's debt off to the next quarter. But you can't, of course, keep that up for very long. And I'm like, this is really reminding me of what IDW is doing when I'm watching your videos describing how they're taking loans and taking loans. They don't even bring in enough money to pay off the interest on the old loans, never mind the new ones. A dark day is coming for them.
I think a dark day is here, actually. I mean, I mean, you're right. Actually, there's always been this weird speculation about they have a third part of their company. There's this odd part that deals in things like making maps, and you have to wonder, like, okay, IDW got hit by this weird tax bill where they were parking unclaimed money overseas. It's part of the little known portion of the Trump Tax Act, where you have to pay a certain fee on companies for undeclared money, a one-time fee. So they got hit by I think $3 million of their loss this year, or right around $4 million now. That's actually the loss for the company. $3 million of it is a tax hit. So I wonder if they've been doing something not only bad in the business side, but something a little more, erroneous. You've got some questionable shit out there.
The trailer, I just realized something for Captain Marvel is dropping tonight during football. I'm not a football fan. I like baseball. But anyway, I am really looking forward to this, because if it's more of her face just
stone cold
mannequin, like it's gonna be meme heaven.
Look, dude, on the other side, when they make the sex robot of her, it won't have to move facial features.
I've got a feeling that companies pay more attention to these things, the people cutting trailers, than you think they do. Like the PR aspects of promotion for a company as big as Disney, they're paying attention. They have media assets all over the place to publish fluff articles that are just for promotion for this and that. They hear these things. I've got a feeling that you are never going to see so many smiles. They scoured and scrubbed that movie looking for anything other than a straight face. And I think that's what that trailer is going to look like, to take a guess.
Do you think sometimes, though, they try to sell on the idea that they're giving it to those, whatever they want to call you in the media, whether that be an alt-righter or a sexist or a misogynist, whatever they're calling you on that particular day? Do you that gets them. You're talking about fluff articles. Well, that enables, another round or 2 rounds or 3 rounds of fluff articles as well. Do you think that they still see that as hype building? Because like the Black Panther, again, they're still talking about the Black Panther. And when they discuss it at Disney, if you listen to their board meetings, those guys, they bought into their own headlines. They did. They think that they created some opus, so the black man has a hero. And it's like, holy shit, you racist, you racist. I mean, it's horrible. So these old white dudes know, they know diversity. They know how to bring a hero to the black man. I thought, my God, are you kidding me? Bob Iger,
Yeah. What I find funny about that is the thing that makes it work is so obvious. And I would love to be in one of those Disney meetings. It's like, well, we did this, and I have Bob Iger there sitting in his chairman's chair and be like, look, it worked. Like Black Panther, worked for the same reason that Captain America, the First Avenger, which is my favorite Marvel film, worked. There's an interesting protagonist played by a charismatic actor that goes through a story arc. They have conflict. They overcome. They're super powered. It's interesting, and it happens in an interesting world. That's why it worked. It's not because Captain America was a white male or because T'Challa was black. You fool. Like, why did Solo suck? Because the actor was uncharismatic. The story didn't go.
The actor was white. They didn't. He was a white male. Because I actually saw the headlines that said, well, we know that they brought back a male lead, and boom, it failed. There you go, right there. Scientific analysis. Bam.
Yeah, it's proof. It's proof that people are sick of white male leads.
That's some of that
exact wrong message off of it. It's like when you look at what worked and what doesn't, and then Iron Man, of course, Robert Downey Jr., just this hugely beloved character. Why? Because Robert Downey Jr. is charismatic as fuck. That's why.
It was great. I mean, when I think about my favorite movies that have been presented in there, also though, I hate to say, I love superhero movies, but I see a burnout, just like they did with Star Wars. They are burning me the hell out because I'm getting more and more origin stories and more of just, the same brawler garbage that I've been reading comics for decades. I've already, had my fill of that. I need something more. I don't need to see my favorite characters on the screen. I'd been there, done that. And now let's have something different. And, that's where we're going to run into our problem though. Again, their definition of different, because I don't think they're going to bring you that wonderful Captain America movie. Man, they're not going to bring me an intense action scene like, in The Winter Soldier, where we actually have Nick Cage trying to get away. I think they're just going to give us more of the same, like I say.
And the idea of Cap becoming the hunted one, like he's Captain Rogers, and the shock that you saw go through S.H.I.E.L.D. when they're like, I know this is weird, but Captain Rogers is now the most wanted man. And you see everybody at their little control panels and they all look shocked. And you as the audience member, you cared. When you put people up on the screen and you put them in precarious situations and nobody in the audience cares, you as a storyteller have completely failed. It doesn't matter, this whole representation thing, as much as people think that it does. The people that are promoting it, it's like, it's just...
You're wrong, Polly. It's obviously going to be when Kamala Khan is on screen and she is fighting the wage gap. You are going to see all the white supremacists come out and say how bad this movie is because she's fighting the wage gap.
Okay, Jim mentioned like Wonder Woman. It's not going to be, Captain Marvel's not going to be as good as Wonder Woman. Same idea. Wonder Woman, in my opinion, the best DC film so far. Why? An interesting character. She's a fish out of water. She goes through a story arc. She has conflict. She overcomes, and it's about superheroes, and she has powers. Are you noticing a theme? Like, it's like stories have been the same since cavemen were telling them around fires. Like, and there's certain things that work and certain things that don't. And if you're not telling a good story, that's got to be the key. It's like with fucking Star Wars, with The Last Jedi. Look, your story fucking sucked. Your main character is a Mary Sue and goes through no changes whatsoever. She shows up awesome.
Girl power.
I was say, well, that's the whole thing about trying to there's this misconception. For Tug, you may not know anything about me, but I went to art school. I went to art school for animation, and one of the things that they taught you in namely the writing for animation class. So it's writing things like dope sheets, script treatments, writing storyboards, things like that. They come out and they tell you one of the things that you need to realize is that it's okay to be cliche, because there is no new story under the earth. I think that people like Rian Johnson were trying to write a unique story, and he did. To his credit, he wrote a unique story. Granted, it was an awful story, but it was unique. And he took the exact wrong message from a class like that. So, there's a reason why the book was The Hero with 1,000 Faces.
Yeah, Joseph Campbell.
Yeah, Joseph Campbell. There's a reason why that is a cultural staple, is because those sorts of stories, they tap into a primal sort of natural sense of your humanity, that it makes sense for that sort of thing to progress in a storyline, because it's something that is easily identifiable. It's something that people can latch onto and root for a character that they want to see succeed. It's a proven, tested formula for a reason. And when you deviate from that, you skirt failure.
I, for one, just wonder why Rian Johnson has never fulfilled Linus's wish to see the Great Pumpkin. Because that big old melon head of his, man.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's just cruel.
Oh, I'm just going through the tabs that I have. Remember this one from last night, guys?
Oh, yeah.
Stop showing that. That's so infuriating.
Black Lightning showrunner Salim Akil accused of domestic violence. This picture has all the things. The guy's name is Salim Akil. He's a POC. It's lit. It's on the CW. It's called Black Lightning, and it's presented by BuzzFeed.
Oh, God.
Superfecta. Okay, I'm an asshole.
You want some A1 sauce for that, Ouroboros?
Yeah, there's...
That's such a win. And, of course, it's like, then they eviscerate this guy in this article Chelsea Steiner does.
Of course.
See,
I like going to the Mary Sue and just reading the cringy articles. Oh my God, they work in some of the most ridiculous things. Like they were going after Johnny Depp, and they were saying things like, you know why he's bad casting? Because his career is on a downturn. If that was a woman wouldn't have a job now, so you shouldn't either. I thought, what?
This one was great. It's like Scarlet Witch is finally getting her own TV series. So why does Vision get top billing?
Yeah. I'm gonna cover that, and I'm gonna cover the Victoria's Secret lingerie thing tomorrow for my live stream.
Yeah,
not enough trans women in Victoria's Secret live. It's like, all right, that's I haven't read it yet. I want to save my reaction for it live. So.
There are
I was reading
so
through
many Scarlet Witch stories to tell, but Marvel is instead centering the show on MCO's least compelling couple.
Have you seen that they're Romani discriminatory? Have you read that? Was like one of the... I was like, what?
Yeah.
What? Romani discriminatory?
Yeah, because she's gypsy.
Yeah.
What?
Her and Piotr are...
Yeah.
What is it? Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a Mary Sue article that goes through that, and it's complaining about they didn't call them people of color. There was another, I don't know, it was another buzzword I can't remember. I think my brain shut off after settler splaining. I think I hit a pinnacle.
Yeah. Oh man, that was a tough article to get through without just giggling the entire time.
Some of these are amazing. I mean, I love buzzwords though. I think they're hilarious. It's funny that what we're looking at is a culture now that finds a way to be reoffended by the same things, or offended. They're not really any new things to be offended by. They're just finding ways to be reoffended.
Well, social justice wants to put the cult back in culture.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a good point.
One thing I do find interesting is that, we were talking about the Vox Day thing, and it's like, their culture inside of corporateness. Who owns Bleeding Cool again?
Avatar. Yeah.
Over on Bounding into Comics, it's like after interview with Vox Day, Bleeding Cool pulls its article and appoints new editor in chief. And you have the longtime editor and chief voice in the form of Rich Johnston, and he's gone for interviewing Vox Day.
It wasn't Rich. It was some other guy. It
wasn't Rich who did it.
No, it wasn't Rich. Rich wasn't the editor anymore. He was actually, I forget what his position is, but that was not Rich anymore. Yeah, that was a misconception. Even myself, I thought, yeah, it's Rich. But no, when I was looking at the article so wait a minute,
you mean to say Rich Johnson was not editor in chief at the time that the interview was done?
That's correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was whatever the guy who did the interview was not Rich Johnston. It was actually a good interview. It was so you knew it couldn't. I looked at that article and I thought, wow, there's a lot of length here. It's thought out. This can't be a Rich Johnston one. So looking forward, yeah, it wasn't.
So so he had already been replaced at the time of that interview.
Yeah, he was replaced by someone else. I don't remember what the particulars were with him not being.
We talked about the article when it was when he was replaced. Like what was that? Like 3 weeks ago or whatever. When we did the article anyway, when we talked about it.
It was a while back.
Everything gets blurred, but we have noticed a change in Bleeding Cool's coverage. Their new editor, it's not as ridiculous. It's not the gold mine of unintentional comedy that it used to be. They've gone in a different editorial direction, and they're just doing not even CBR fluff pieces, more like
how do you make money? Like the problem is, like, how do these places make money anymore without offense or without that knee-jerk reaction culture? That's the thing, because I've never checked Bleeding Cool's they're pushing. I've never seen like their traffic, what kind of driver, or like what kind of traffic drivers they have, but it can't be good. They need controversy. The stuff that really would get reactions was a lot of damn controversy.
Well, if you'll notice, like everything's shut down, even on Bounding into Comics. I'm running ad block plus script block plus privacy badger, and it's so I can actually read articles without pop-ups and everything being slowed down to a crawl.
I was like, I like your site, but Jesus, come on, guys! Like, I get you need to make money, but I can't read your site. There's too many pop-ups.
Oh my God! Yeah, no, you need to roll no script on that site. Oh my God, it's awful.
That's what I have to. I like to give people props and run their ads while I'm going to cover their shit. But sometimes I can't do that.
Well, it makes the site unwatchable. Like if you are running no script and you just click on it because sometimes the text itself won't show up unless you allow the site's main script to run. It's JavaScript or whatever, so it's like, okay, I'll click on this, and the list goes on for 2 scroll pages worth, and it's like, my God, these are just all the ads and cookies, and oh Jesus, you make your site unreadable and unwatchable in this way. I want you to be successful. I want you to make that advertising money, but you've made that impossible for me.
I think I wonder, it's something with them I've always wondered about. They talked about in one of their articles how they lost their Marvel backing. They don't get comps anymore because they were, oh my God, they went out and talked about Tam Bonvillain. I think that's probably what lost it there. But I wonder how often stuff like that happens.
Yeah, that could be pretty devastating to someone like them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, they have not. I don't know. They don't seem to hard edge it as much anymore. They were for a while there, coming with the hammer all the time, and they just aren't as heavy right now. And I wonder. I don't know. Something seems to have changed with them a little bit. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it right now, but.
Well, Polly, did you confirm that Rich Johnston is no longer there? Or
yeah, well, no, it's not that he's no longer there. It's just his position is changed. I'm trying to remember back to like a month or whatever ago when we read that, not like 4 or 5 streams ago. It was, and he was really, I don't know. It comes across like Chinese state news when there's a gun to the back of your head for the newsreader talking, and it's like, glorious government is, reaffirms our moral authority. Like he was reading his own message was, I look forward to working with her in all of these ways, and then the wonderful new future ahead, and so forth. And it was like, who talks like this being replaced? It's like, are you just happy you still have a job? I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, it's not like he's qualified for other.
Well, didn't she replace the Mark, what's his name, Seaford or whatever, that was the managing editor, I believe, at the time? Like, that was the managing editor-in-chief. Because I think Rich Johnston was just, a staff writer. I mean, I could pull it up. I could probably pull it up from Bounding. I'd have to look at who wrote that freaking article. I'd have to look at an archive. Here's one. Let me see who wrote that archive.
I've got to start archiving more stuff just so I have quick access.
You just run into a bunch of, you just run into a nightmare because you're like, where the hell did I put that crap?
Yeah. I mean, I favorite this stuff and put it in a separate folder, but like that folder has become a nightmare of fuckery at this point.
You should the nightmare of names. I have like I itemize. So like if I want to do an article on, I just call them articles. If I want to do a video on Moose Ballman, for example, I go to my Moose Ballman folder and pull up, the stupid shit that he said over time, which there's plenty of. And my God, that man said some gross stuff too. Ugh,
Moose Ballman, trademark.
Yeah.
Hey man, I don't need the legal people coming over here and striking my channel. All right, we say it with all the trademarks and copyrights owned by him for his name.
Man, Moose, I don't know, man. What do you think that Moose is like? That a lot of his indignation is by the fact that Ethan didn't use him for Cyberfrog?
Yes, it is, because if you look at them communicating before all of that stuff happened, and then immediately after, like, he is on a hate rampage because he didn't get to do that. And I mean that's the only explanation. It's amazing he is consumed. He is obsessed with Van Sciver. He fucking hates me too. I mean, he fucking
you know who hates you? Renfrew fucking hates you, man. I had not gone to her Twitter timeline in a while because I don't know. I just find it, she's so angry, and I find it so depressing.
Boring, and it's like, these people don't matter. That's the thing. Like,
I scrolled through it last night, and dude, 9 out of the 10 tweets that day were about you, bro. Like,
it likes that voice. She's like, I want to snap, crackle, pop that. I like that. You ain't stepping into my Rice Krispies.
And as chat can see, joining us is the one and only Jim Healis, author and creator of Blue Mamba. Welcome, Jim, to our 300 subscriber special.
Hi, everyone, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jim was willing to be on when, well, I was about to say when we were smaller, but we're still small. So Jim was willing to be on a while ago. So that's awesome to have him here.
You got to build, man. It takes a little while. It does. It takes a little while, some luck too, some tricking the algorithm. Maybe a little pleading. I don't know.
Some clickbait.
Please.
Clickbait definitely takes some clickbait. I had to say that. Got to cover the drama sometimes too. I hate to.
The drama in comics is fun, so I don't really have a problem covering. I have a problem covering the drama between YouTube comic book critics. That's where I'm not really.
Do
you understand what I mean? Like,
I'm in a weird spot about like covering drama between. Again, I hate to. I'm just going to call them comicsgate creators. You can call them whatever, but the drama between creator to creator, some of that's weird, and because I like certain people, like when that stuff with Tim Lim and EVS and all that stuff coming up, I like all the people involved. I don't particularly, and I know every time I bring it up that somebody's going to get pissed off, some of their fandom's going to be pissed off, and it's like, my God. But still, I don't know, it's there. We cover the other side about that. I still don't make videos on creators within that, but I feel it. I feel it necessary if you're going to hold people to at least some kind of standard. You should at least talk about, certain things there. I think we do cut some people slack over, like I guess you could argue over professionalism. I think sometimes we are biased, but
as a quick side note, as chat can see, I put up the thumbnail for today because YouTube still won't allow you to add a thumbnail to a live stream before the live stream is completed, which annoys me. But
that is ridiculous.
And I decided to go in a different direction and have a sexy comic book girl on the thumbnail.
I think you're really sexually exploiting that cake.
Well, you know how hard I worked to get that text on that cake in Photoshop?
My question is that a nylon ribbon or a cloth ribbon? Because I really needed to know how much it's cutting into her body.
Well, I mean, if you look at the boob on the far left there, you can see the fold in the flesh. So it's a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to know if those candles consented to being lit.
In any case, so Jim, how goes the Blue Mamba sales after the initial offering, like through Indiegogo?
I get a few here and there. Not
nice.
I've been slacking off a bit due to personal reasons, but I probably 1 or 2 digitals a day.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So, yeah, it's still there.
Well, I'm enjoying my copy.
Like that. I mean, do you feel like you learned a lot from that? Do you feel like when you offer something else, you'll,
oh yeah,
value. What would be a couple of valuables you gleaned from that you might not you might throw out there to people thinking about it?
Learn how to negotiate your contracts with the people you work with and hold their feet to the fire on the contract. And don't be afraid to fire somebody.
Huh.
Okay.
That's probably the biggest takeaway I got from this.
Now that's everybody that you're dealing with that you set up a contract, like artists, inkers, colorists, like the whole nine? Or
yeah, I had a contract with everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good idea to have a contract, because then you've got some sort of way to ensure,
even if it's nothing more than, you will do this by this date and I'll pay you this much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Some sort of agreement that both of you have nodded yes to, that you can both go back and refer to and say, this is what we agreed to. And also that you can show your accountant to show why you spent all this money.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, not to completely change topics, but I saw Tug posted about Tumblr getting rid of some sexually explicit material.
All of it.
Yeah. Now, how does that affect like the slut walks and the other disturbing imagery that we see on Tumblr?
They make exceptions for medical and what else?
Art and medical and God, I'd have to look up the.
So slut walks will now be considered art.
Yeah.
Probably. They're considered medical. If you look at that, I mean, the obesity and all that shit.
Yeah.
Somebody can die on that.
So it's no longer going to be body positivity. It's going to be look at my medical condition.
Yes, I have giganticism. Breasts. It's well, hentai is art. Does that count?
Yes. My opinion.
Won't this kill the site though? I mean, honestly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, there's a lot of animators that I watch that post their NSFW stuff that they do, the commission stuff that they do on Tumblr.
Like I've popped in and out of Tumblr from time to time, and of course I know of it from like the Blue Hair specials and so forth. But like that much of their content, you think is related to sexually explicit material that it's really going to hit them that hard?
I'd say probably like 40%.
Oof.
Yeah. There's a lot on Tumblr about that, dude. Yeah. I've talked to several people that say that they use Tumblr only for porn.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's sad.
Man, I got to go check out Tumblr more often. I didn't realize.
What's sad about that is that these people go to Tumblr for porn when there are like, 27 million other sites they could use?
Yeah.
I actually am failing to understand that. That's why
But some people were saying, you know, which I kind of agree with in a way, that, you know, there are things that you would find on Tumblr that places like YouPorn would ban.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So what was their reasoning? I didn't. That's the part of the story I didn't catch.
Ad revenue. It's they're bringing in they're trying to bring in investors basically. So I wonder what that's the thing. I'd like to know what their actual bottom line is. I have not you know, looked into that or anything like that at all.
Someone was pointing out that that Tumblr was like the last of the top 5 social media sites to ban sexually explicit content. So now, if you're doing social media, you know, if you're a user of top social media sites for this, you're not going to have access to sex positive content, because not only does this get rid of porn, but it also gets rid of, you know, hey, let's talk about sex in a positive way, you know, and doesn't let people. What if you want to post an article about, you know, the top 15 positions that Asians use on Chinese New Year, you know?
Yeah.
You can't do that anymore because that would be considered pornographic and you'll get banned.
It's just all bad. I mean, honestly, you know, when you get down to it, we can make jokes about it all day, which I will. I laugh at some of the stuff they pull off there. But, you know, we're looking at a more and more restrictive environment. I cannot say, I'm still debating what the hell a free speech absolutist is, you know, because I don't want to hear a guy bragging about his proclivity for children. But still, that's free speech, right? So maybe I'm not a free speech absolutist there. But at the same time, I want places that do adhere, you know, some of the worst places that are rumored, you know, the way people used to talk about 4chan and on. That's because people could say whatever the fuck they wanted there, you know.
But Tug, I think free speech absolutists are, and I'm sure Monkey will correct me on this, are more about affording people the opportunity to say anything they want, not necessarily, not necessarily. I don't want to say allowing them to say it, but you get my point. It's give them the opportunity to say whatever the fuck they want. And if people listen, they listen. If they don't listen, they don't listen. If they want to make money on what they say, then they will say things that are appropriate to people who will pay them. If they don't care about making money, then they will say whatever the fuck they want, regardless of who it offends. But I think free speech absolutists are more along the lines of giving them the opportunity.
Well, I hear you, and I know what you mean, but it you know, like Nick Rakita was saying that. So yeah, I'm very close to being a free speech absolutist, and I like how he takes like right next door to being a free speech absolutist, but not because everybody thinks it's child porn. But I had that argument out with Monkey on one of his late night streams, where it's like, you know, he's the most vociferous advocate that I know of free speech, but I could name all sorts of things. It's like, you are not in favor of two people having a phone conversation whereby they're publicly on a live stream, let's say, planning a terrorist act because it's collusion to commit a crime. It's like, why? They're just speaking about it. What's the problem? There's all sorts of things that I can think of that cross the line into criminal behavior. So clearly you're not an absolute, nobody is an absolutist, because you can think of a whole range of things.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean?
I think Monkey, what Monkey's stance on it. By the way, if you don't know who Ranting Monkey is, that's the person we're talking about. Tug. He's another YouTuber. Does mostly political stuff, but what Monkey talks about when he's talking about being a free speech absolutist is that you can say whatever you want. It's not necessarily the fact that, you know, if people are talking about their proclivities for whatever their sexual desires are, that's not the illegal part. It's only when they act on it.
See, I run into the, you know, I guess when people start adding in the consequence portion, you know, again, I hate that statement, you know, freedom of speech, but, you know, I believe in freedom of speech, but I don't believe in freedom from consequences. It's like, well, fuck you. You don't believe in anything then, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, when I get into that, like I say, I want to be a free speech absolutist, but maybe I don't. I don't really know where the line is. anything. There are lines. A lot of it. I think everybody has a line there, unless you're probably literally quite disturbed in the head. You've got lines somewhere.
I think my line is the call to action.
So
would
you guys
whatever you want, but the moment you have a call to action,
the moment you say go out there and do this,
one of my friends pointed out to me. Sorry, Jack, go ahead.
Would you guys say you're free speech absolutist adjacent?
You son of a bitch. I told you not to bring that up.
Derailed.
Well, it's a friend of mine. He's pretty close to a free speech absolutist, but he's very quick to point out it can't just be a call to action. It has to be a credible call to action, which adds in the gray area, because where I live at, there's all sorts of crazy homeless people, and they're making calls to action all the time. Let's go kill blah blah blah. But they're a mentally disturbed person yelling about this and that in the street. So clearly people don't mean that when they say a call to action, but isn't that the whole point? If you want it to be illegal, i.e. an arrestable offense, it has to be definable. So I mean, what defines credible? I'm just being a hard ass here, pointing out that it's not as easy as some people make it sound to define.
No, it's not. It never is. And I think in a broader sense, that's where a lot of people have trouble understanding what happens in Congresses and legislatures when it comes to making laws.
Which is why I worry so much about the blue hairs saying we need to make this and that illegal. And it's like, that can be used against you. Do you not see that?
That's why I think you get a lot of campaign promises, and then none of them come to fruition during the term of service, because they get in there and they realize, oh crap, I can't actually give them what I promised, because if I do, X, Y, Z, and 1, 2, 3 is going to happen, and those people don't want that. So you're going to label something as hate speech, and as Tug talks about, and other people talk about a lot of time, there is a definite association with that label when you say you're part of a hate group.
Hey guys, I'll be back in just a second. I gotta go do something.
No problem.
Sure.
When somebody says you're part of a hate group, that conjures all sorts of images to mind. It's a hell of a label to publicly stick on somebody.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Hate crimes altogether. So
seriously. The idea you're part of a hate group, and so people will label different things as hate speech, like border town. It would not be recognized as hate speech, but look at the way the slack-jawed white yokels are portrayed in that comic book. It's unbelievable. Like, they're all gun-toting redneck 3%ers. Damn right, brother. Let's get these mongrels out of our country. Like, it's wild.
They're called muties.
It's wild how far they're willing to go. And if somebody were to play another ethnicity up to that level of a stereotype, oh my God, hate speech would be ringing all over Twitter from all the check marks.
Yeah.
And I would look at both of those examples and say that neither one of them is hate speech, because it's just speech.
Yeah.
But that is kind of the part that annoys me when you have with like particularly hate speech laws or hate crimes. They are not equally across the board applied, and that's my issue with them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. If you want to make hate speech illegal, like, that's one thing. I disagree with it, but if it were equally applied, at least I could understand it. But it's not, is it?
No, never is.
Terms of service on Twitter, my God, you got to be kidding me. It's only certain types.
So Polly and I got into it about Laura Loomer. I'm of the opinion that I could give a shit if Laura Loomer got banned off of Twitter. Do I applaud her getting banned off of Twitter? No, I think that there's definitely double standards at play.
I only care about pretty girls that get kicked off Twitter.
I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
When pretty girls get banned off of Twitter?
No, her protest.
Oh yeah, no. Her protest is cringy as fuck. Oh my God.
No, the funniest part about that was Twitter called her bluff and said, "We're not going to press charges."
Yep. Yeah. No. They let her just continue to do it. It's just that they had to make sure that she wasn't blocking a fire exit.
Yeah.
We got to cycle this back around to comics, guys.
Okay.
Not on our subscriber special. We don't.
I'm gonna give my first impressions of the Captain Marvel trailer.
Yep.
You've seen it?
I've watched it.
It's out.
Okay.
It's out. I'm sorry, I muted you guys and I went and spent 2.5 minutes watching it.
All
That's
right.
okay.
Does
I
she
predict
smile
I'm
a whole lot?
probably going to see this movie at least 3 times.
Really?
Yes. It has the from the trailer alone. I see a decent amount of action. I see a decent amount of suspenseful story. I see some good conflict that's set up. I see, as I mentioned in chat earlier, it looks like they've told Brie Larson to play her character as the alien that doesn't 100% understand human communication nuance. So in the trailer, I think I saw her like sort of crack a smile like twice.
That's a damn lie.
And it was where she attempts human humor. And I take it back. One was an attempt at human humor, and the other was a flashback where you see this kind of a little bit of a smile.
Well, isn't Captain Marvel supposed to be human?
Yes, but understand her origins. So she is human, but in this movie she has not been on Earth.
Yeah, she was like abducted and brainwashed or something.
Yeah, she was abducted. She was brainwashed. She's so in her mind, at least from what I can tell in the trailer, in her mind, she's not. She understands that this is where she's from, but she doesn't. But she's, Kree personality. So I can I can give a little bit of leeway currently on the whole not smiling thing and kind of awkward, communication skills thing. And good on the special effects in the trailer, but which we all know depending on the time of the trailer release, the special effects are either shitty because they're not release ready,
right,
or they're spot on because they're days away from the release of the movie.
Yeah.
In this one, I think the special effects are good. I need to watch the trailer a couple more times to get some more details in it. And costuming is great.
Yeah, I've never complained about her costume. I mean, other than the color scheme, because the color scheme isn't what her normal comic book color scheme is.
Well, they never are.
Yeah,
they never are. And so you give the movies a little bit of leeway.
Yeah.
And you've got to take what's on the page and put it up on a screen.
Yeah.
And it's got to move. It's got to be lit correctly. Yeah.
What would sell me is actually seeing a scroll. Do you actually see a scroll?
Just watched it.
We did in a previous trailer.
Yeah, you catch a glimpse of them in the teaser.
Yeah.
Really?
All right, Polly, you saw it.
Yeah, I just watched.
Talking about, are you hitting old ladies? Or are you talking
oh yeah, the old lady.
Polly,
what did you think of the old lady?
Yeah, you see her head jammed into a bar. I saw that.
Well, then she. Well, yeah, no spoilers, but it's like she kind of had a reason to punch that old lady.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah. I mean, come on. There's all kinds of reasons to punch old ladies, but she had a particular one.
Yeah, this is a particularly good reason.
Mm-hmm.
She was white.
It's like, well, the special effects. I mean, like I heard you talk about that while I was watching it, and it was, I mean, it's Marvel. They better have good special effects.
Well, yeah,
Jesus Christ,
yeah.
I got the fucking money for it.
Yeah.
The space fighting scene, like the action scenes towards the end, look great. I'm curious. So you said you're going to see this movie first impression. You're guessing 3 times. What other superhero films have you seen more than once? I'm just curious what that standard of I want to watch it 3 times means.
I saw Deadpool 2 in the theater 3 times.
Okay.
I saw the first Deadpool in the theater 5 times.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Justice League in the theater twice. I saw Avengers 4 in the theater twice, but that's nothing against the movie. Trying to think. I saw Wonder Woman in the movie theater 6 times.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So you're like multiple people in terms of like ticket purchases.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a target audience.
Yeah. I realized something in watching that trailer. It's like it's good to be self-aware, and it's like, God, the internet has ruined me and made me a cynic. Because
the whole what was it? Her to a hero.
Yes, exactly. When it's okay, what comes up, guys, is like, for her, and then it fades out and it shows that it's hero.
For a hero.
A hero, yeah.
Yeah.
And but that's part of the self-awareness.
It's just like I'm looking for problems where there aren't necessarily going to be any, and goddamn you, internet, you blue check marks have made me so bitter.
Well, I will come out and say that the for her and fading into for a hero, that is a problem for me. I did roll my eyes at things like that one scene in Wonder Woman. Now, granted, I thought Wonder Woman was a great movie. I have absolutely no problems with the story in it, but you better damn well believe that I rolled my eyes at the scene where it's like, well, what happened with your people? His people. Oh, yeah. You're gonna cram Native American oppression into this movie, really? And not only that, where did that go? It just went like into...
You know what annoyed me the most about that?
Yeah, what?
You have Nazis.
Yeah.
As an example in that film, and you choose to focus on the American guy as the problematic one.
Yeah,
they weren't Nazis in that movie. It was World War I.
Yeah, no. It was
what the fuck am I talking about?
Yeah.
That was still the Germans.
But so this is what you were alluding to, Polly, is how the online social media culture has made you start recognizing these things in these movies that previously you wouldn't have. And you probably would have glossed over them, as to where now they are glaring beacons.
But sometimes rightly so, and then sometimes not.
Yeah.
Like it's like, people like to talk about older films where it's like that film could never be made today, like Blazing Saddles and so forth, right? And it's like, is that film actually problematic, or have people just made it into a problem? You know what I mean? And it's like, are any of these issues that I'm seeing really an attempt at indoctrination, or am I just seeing it because there are so many attempts at indoctrination that are for real? Yeah. I don't know.
I think most of the time it's something that you are seeing because you're aware of it, not necessarily outright. We're going to send this message, or maybe they said, hey, let's put this message right here and see if it sticks, but to people like us who are aware of these things constantly, that inadvertent message stands out to us.
Yeah.
And we pick on it, and it ruins the things around that message, because of what we've become aware of. And so, I've said this before, as soon as I started stepping away from some of the community things around in comics that I've learned about in the past year, as soon as I started stepping away from those things, I started enjoying my comic books, my movies, more than I had before.
Well, okay, I hear you, and I know what you mean, but at the same time, it's not like it isn't really happening. Like Kathleen Kennedy, the Force is female, with the female robot in Solo that wants to release all the oppressed robots. Like, these things really are actually happening.
I'm not denying that they're out there. I'm just saying that sometimes we see a message that we see as like this huge beacon, at when it's really not. Something that is a throwaway line to the average consumer could be a red flag to you and I. And the average consumer just probably won't even remember, what that line was or, whatever. And so the message didn't get through to them, but it got through to us.
Yeah. I think the, you mentioned as a throwaway, is Tug still here? Did he get back?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm reading something. I'm reading something really crazy.
Tug's being quiet. Come on, then. That's weird.
Yeah. I sometimes I sidetracked reading something, and I'm like, holy crap! I think I found something really fucked up, and until I know that this is right, I'm not going to. Oh man, I think I found some backstory on somebody that's been dealing with us, and I think that they're a fraud. Is what I think.
That isn't a titillating thing you don't want to talk about or anything. Well done.
I can't say who it is because I would be labeling somebody a fraud, and I've got to do research on it. But man, people all come with their backstories, and we don't do our due diligence. Like, here's the thing. I feel like we went through this moment of, we thought there were problems in the industry, and we went through this moment where, we figured everybody that comes on board, they're going to want to be professional. They're going to want to be, exemplify certain things. And you believe the backstories that people bring. We buy into everything that people brought, and some people lie. I found that out. There was the first scammer I ran into, that they made about $1,700. And I got contacted by one of the people that was working on their project. Now, their project had a quite insane level. It only had 2 pieces of art. It seemed very strange anyway. I'd asked them some stuff about it, and they didn't want to respond about it. But then I got contacted by the person who created the art, and this person, before they even reached a few days into their project, they were already back paying. They were stop payment and pushing on, like basically trying to stop payments on the artists there. And this artist contacted me and showed me all this stuff, and I thought, holy crap, this is just an insane scam. And it turned out that specific person, I can't remember, it was Red Giant something, I can't remember it, but the person that was assigned to it was just a flat out lie. They weren't real. They were a figment. They created a scam, and it was it was pretty good. It was the first one I ran across. And after that, maybe this sounds bad. Like, if you come in as a creator now, I try to find everything I can about you, because I want to make sure you're real.
Well, it's part of your reputation too. If you support someone and they turn out to be a fraud, that's makes you look bad. It hurts you.
I've disagreed with most creators on something. I've disagreed here and there. But that's okay. If we do our disagreement behind the scenes too, I think that's much better. We should not. If I don't want to platform a person or whomever, that's okay. That works fine. But it shouldn't leak out into the public. It shouldn't damage you publicly. It shouldn't, it shouldn't go that way unless it's outwardly fraud. And then when you get into fraud, though, like I say, I feel like we went through this weird honeymoon stage where we wanted to, it was almost like the summer of love, oh man, everything's great. Every project is backable, and, some people will take advantage of you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But I mean, we were just mentioning that earlier, right? For every fraudulent person that, I'm with this and this comicsgate thing, they're trying to ride a wave, and the people inside the industry are trying to ride a wave, and then there's straight up scamsters, to the lowest degree.
I made a good contact in IDW. Actually, I always wanted, one of the things that always motivated me was Zach would talk about his inside sources. I was like, cool, I got to get some of those, I got some inside sources. Yeah. So I started developing. I literally put out a call. Hey, if you work at IDW and you want to burn some people and you don't want me to burn you back, do that. And you know what? People would contact me. People that started contacting me with real, I was like, are you, this is really you? Holy shit, and it was really interesting when you started getting close to these groups, who they really are, the Portland Mafia, those people, when I got to see them for the bitter little people that they were. But some of the stories, my God, I mean, right. So there's actually one that's recorded out there that you know, someone reminded me of that I'd never seen. So there was a Comic-Con with one of the milkshake girls. I don't remember which one, that they went to go meet Elvira. Now, when they went to go meet Elvira, there were a few people in line, and you know, you can see, you can actually, there's a few pictures there of the person like sitting on the floor crying in the aftermath of this. And someone told me a story. So they said that they were there, and they, you know, they came back around like looking at something. They'd walk past that line. They came back later, and one of the milkshake girls, like I said, I can't remember who she was. She was sitting in the floor screaming and crying. They thought somebody had assaulted her. So they went up trying to help her, you know, like, oh my God, you know, are you okay? And she was just blathering something over and over again, just blubbering it out. They finally made out that she was saying, Elvira thinks I'm pretty and I'm not. I don't think I am. So this, yeah, this adult female, this married adult female saw Elvira, and Elvira told her she was pretty. And that's all it took. Because that's how some of these people are. You know?
You back away slowly from that, because that's crazy, and it's
that's
infectious.
A bucket of crazy with a side of what the, you know.
Like as somebody pointed out to me, it's like when you have artists, it was you quiz, Jesus, yeah. When you have with artistic people, they're eccentrics, and it says right on my Twitter bio, you know, I describe myself as eccentric, and I enjoy eccentric conversations with eccentric people because I'm not making money off this. I have a fucking day job. Do you know what I mean? I'm doing this out of interest, and if it's not, if the interest goes away, then I'm going to go away, because why would I still be here?
Yeah.
But in that kind of eccentric crowd, you're always going to get like high emotionality, arrested development.
Man, you were being so polite. They're degenerate weirdos with emotional problems. Well, just say it. Rich people are eccentric. Poor people are weirdos. Howard Hughes collected his pee in jars. He was super wealthy, so he was eccentric. Some semi-homeless hoarder does that. You're like, oh, burn that place to the ground. That guy's crazy.
If you listen to the difference between crazy and eccentricity is money.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah. If you listen to comic book curation long enough,
it's hiring a professional to diagnose you. You know, that's
that's
well, that makes me think of something. But I was just to say, if you listen to comic book curation long enough, I'm starting to get this fearful feeling that it's coming across like Jack's my id. Like,
no, I'm just the angry person that wants
like I'll say something, and then my angry little man will come out in the form of Jack's talking.
You dress it up you're too nice. Like sometimes you got to be a complete asshole, and that's my job apparently.
Well, my God, the stream itself is unprofessional. I've got to add some kind of gloss to it. But the idea of the therapy thing. How many things that I've read from check marks on Twitter or people yelling in debates, and it's like, this is the kind of thing you handle in therapy, not in public.
Well, have you been reading comics? I told you, I was telling these guys the other night, comic books have become two things. They're either a weirdo's therapy journal, or it's become like a chick track. And that's what you're seeing from a lot of the mainstream books.
How about when they literally become about therapy?
Heroes in Crisis. There's a whole miniseries around it.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of people talking and navel gazing for 40 pages. And then they're like, oh, we got to kill some legacy characters because Dan Didio hates Wally West or whatever. I don't get it. I don't want to read about somebody else's emotional problems. Batman and Catwoman write poetry to each other.
I call bullshit on that. Like, just to be disagreeable. That
of course you do.
Well, yes, the device of a superhero in therapy is not even a bad idea as a core notion. Like, it's like, I don't want to hear about somebody else's problems. I don't want to hear about
heroes. I don't
want to hear the writer's problem.
Yeah, but that's what it is.
But no, you're agreed. But like, it's like Spider-Man has emotional problems, and they're interesting. He has problems with girls. He can't pay his bills. He's got this nagging sense of responsibility that basically ruins his life and gets him doing things that puts himself and his wife in danger. And like, the list goes on and on and on. That's actually interesting. Batman's pathological thing about his parents being killed, driving him to do a one-man war on crime and recruit children into it. I mean, that's fascinating.
We're going to get back on that again, aren't you? Anyway, no, I'm just
Batman
saying
is not a pederast, Jack.
Tom King has some sort of
Polly,
weird...
you're the one that said it!
Tom King has some sort of weird opoditis complex that hasn't been addressed.
Opoditis.
What was that?
You mean Oedipus?
Whatever.
Yeah.
You knew what I meant. Words are hard, names are stupid. I have a degree in English. Be quiet. And
Open doors.
I don't know where I got that. I must have seen that. Anyway, you knew what I meant. He has some weird mommy issues that just are unresolved, and they're expressing it like the Captain America issues Mark Waid did. It was Orange Man bad for like 6 issues. They're just working out their own problems in these books and doing it very poorly. Like, if I have to read one more Mariko Tamaki book about people eating at a diner, talking about doing something and then never doing it, I'm going to go insane.
Well, I think the single greatest individual exemplar of what we're talking about here would have to be America Chavez. God, I love that series, ironically.
Did you guys watch that TED Talk she did?
Yes.
Not yet. I still need to, man.
Oh, it is fantastic. It's Gabby standing up there saying, I never thought that superheroes would play this large of a role in my life, nor should they have. It is her life.
Come on, Polly, that was my shtick in our review. I was the one that was mean to Gabby.
Well, here's the joke about that. They haven't, except in her own mind.
Yes. Because she got 12 issues and tanked it. Yeah.
But to hear her talk in that TED Talk, you would think that series had, it's like I was saying to you guys last night, not just, obviously it wasn't a smash hit. Obviously it wasn't successful, but she talks about it like it was even competently successful. Yeah. And it's like that series was a disaster, Gabby. How can you stand up there proud of it when you did? I mean, we reviewed just issue 3, and that issue alone was so poorly written. And I don't mean on a, okay, so what are you homophobic? What do you hate the Hispanics? And it's like, no, it's how awful the storytelling was. And
it was written for a 5-year-old.
Yeah, and it is a clear self-insert. She's talking about herself.
Yes.
She has a white girlfriend, even though she's got this anger against white people in general and distrust of them. It's like Zach said, SJWs write for an audience of one, them. Yes.
There's a therapist.
Well, they do, they slap in therapists. I noticed that one thing with Visaggio's writing over and over again. I noticed that there's this tool of self-therapy, obviously, but there's this tool of actually inserting either a therapist character or a character as the surrogate therapist. They work the same. They dialogue exactly the same. I mean, many of the stories just have a therapist straight up, but if it's not just straight up, running through, smashing something over people's heads, then they get into dialogue. It's a very, very strange way of putting the narrative together,
That's what I thought too.
The way I described America Chavez was that it was bad fan fiction. It's the confessions of a teenage girl sort of thing. It's someone's writing their self-insert as being the new hip thing in the Marvel universe, and that's exactly what came across in issue 3. Which is the episode, the comic book curation that Polly and I did. But yeah, it's
like, and the inclusion of the X-Men in the most, like you said, Jim, for writing for a 5-year-old, because it's like the X-Men are in it. What was it? It was 2 panels and all of the X-Men were only in 1?
Grand total of 3 pages. And that's including the Juggernaut. And that's discounting all of the pages with Storm. We're talking like the X-Men.
And the original concept of the Mary Sueism is that it's a self-insert, but then number 2, that everybody instantly loves this character. Yeah. And everywhere America goes, people are trying to help her out, telling her she's awesome, emotionally validating everything she says and does, and her complete past and history. And America going, I don't know who I am. And then somebody saying, you know who you are. You're America. Like it's just it's like this was written by an adult.
Yeah.
It's them talking to themselves as the writer, like saying, I'm good, people like me, and it's like those morning validations.
It is the self-affirmation diary that every therapist tells people to have.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Actually being published.
Yeah. Let's say, Jack, you kind of touched on something here, man. I kind of want to see this explored. Is that these are therapy journals?
It's therapy journals or chick tracts, because it's either about their semi-religious indoctrination, like all the X-Men books. Thanks, Tom Taylor.
Yeah.
Or it's somebody's weird therapy journal. I'm telling you, those
therapy journal.
I had a discussion with religion coming up in comic books with somebody like IRL like 2 weeks ago, and what a rich area for fascinating storytelling, and nobody takes advantage of it. Like it at one time they did. Nightcrawler with his being a Christian monk, and the fact that he feels he needs redemption because he's a damned person who looks like an evil elf, but he's not actually, and finds redemption through Christianity, and it kind of guides his thinking. No one's going to write that because they would be fearful that it would be like Christian supremacy or something being included in the comic, as opposed to just a character identity for that character alone.
Unless it was a Muslim character.
Well, but in terms of Islam, it's the fluffy Disney touchy-feely Islam. It's not actually how this faith would influence the person. Like with a Nightcrawler, it's seeking redemption because he feels that he's evil, and it's that's interesting. I would like to hear about Kitty Pryde's Judaism. That would be interesting. Did she walk away from it? Does she still practice it? What a rich area for fascinating storytelling. But I think they're, middling their way through it because we don't want to touch this. It's too hot. That's my best guess.
Just want to a Kitty Pryde standalone where she goes to synagogue all day.
I like Kitty Pryde, and I won't apologize for my fandom.
That would be, we all know that would be a 4-part story with each one having 4 spin-off titles of 5 issues each.
Yes. Yeah.
And somehow it involved
if they did that, this is the shitty part about that. If they did an exploration of religion with these characters, that it's going to be a story about everyone should learn about everybody else's religion except the Christians. So that we can all be one big diverse crowd.
Yeah.
Well, and they don't address the fact that Thor is a god. Why isn't there literally, why isn't there a cult that has spawned worshiping him?
Wait a minute. Another reason 2099 was an awesome setting. There was.
But they're not going to do that again.
Well, I know, but the Thorites, they had little Thor hammers, Mjolnir, that I can never say.
Mjolnir.
Hammer.
They carry little hammers around their necks instead of little crucifixes because he's a literal god. I'm like, well, that would make sense. God, this 2099 is fascinating, but hey, that went away too.
Well, all I gotta say, Polly, is that one of the ones that I pitched on Comic Book Curation earlier, Batman Holy Terror. That one explores a theocratic United States.
Yeah, and that book is 20 years old now.
Yeah. And I actually did go read it, and you were right. What a hell of a pitch. It was great. I really enjoyed it.
Speaking of which, we're creeping up on 2 hours. And I'm sure Tug's tired of streaming.
Is Tug even listening to us yammer anymore?
Yeah, I'm still listening. I'm horsing out a little bit too.
No, fair enough.
About 4:45. So
fair enough. So this would be a great time to go into our comic book pitches, as we always do about this time, and we will do them lightning fast. Jack, you're up. Let's have it.
No, go.
Okay, Quiz, you're up. Let's have it.
All right. Well, has Polly had his Miller month? December is the release of the chapter approved for Warhammer 40,000. So this is going to be chapter approved month for me. I'm going to be pitching nothing but Warhammer comics. For those that don't, fuck, you used to play the game too. So for those that don't know, Warhammer actually did have a publishing arm for a long time. They had a magazine called Inferno and stuff like that. But they do farm out the IP to several different companies. And this one is, let's see here. It's written by Graham McNeil, art by Tony Parker, Lisa Lubera, and Veronica Gandini as colorists, lettered by Ed Dukeshire and edited by Ian Brill. My pitch today is Fire and Honor. It's a story about a group of Imperial Guardsmen. Imperial Guard are a force within the Warhammer 40k universe. They're the essentially the army of men. They're humans fighting amongst the aliens, the mutants, and the heretics in the Warhammer 40k universe. This one centers around the crew of a Hellhound, which is a certain kind of tank within the Imperial Guard. It carries flamethrowers. And it's this whole campaign cut off on this gulch where they have to break the lines of a Tau invading force and eventually do so. But not without, backbiting orders from superior generals and you see this Vestroyan officer here get his comeuppance later on when he sends thousands of men to their deaths in this suicide run. It's a very interesting book, and it definitely humanizes a lot of the grunts, the foot soldiers of the Imperial Guard.
Nice. Okay, Jack, no more backing out. You're up.
All right, hang on. I gotta pull up images.
You're ruining our professional stream.
Yeah, go with that story. I'm pitching the Warlord, the first 50 issues. The Warlord was written and illustrated by Mike Grell, and it is sword and sorcery with a pilot who gets lost in the Hollow Earth in the world of Skartaris. Now, they've made Skartaris its own dimension since then, but it's awesome. There's old technology because the people that lived there were Atlanteans that fled Atlantis when it fell into the ocean. And we get to learn a lot about the history of Atlantis through the adventures of our hero, Travis Morgan. And it's awesome. He does all these crazy things, finding magical swords, going to the surface world in his armor and getting attacked by Russians. Villains show up, Power Girls in an issue later on. But if you like sword and sorcery, this is a great classic book. I think the most expensive issue was the first appearance of Travis in first appearance special, which was like $8. Most of these are like $2 and $3 books. So it's got amazing art, great storyline. There's even like little backup stories with Omek and some other stuff. And they have great supporting cast. Travis is a real interesting guy. And they've held up really well over the years. This is from 76. So.
I say Mike Grell is a favorite artist of mine. He did the initial run of Volume 2 Green Arrow. And the way he draws Oliver Queen is a lot like Travis there.
Yeah, Travis actually gets mistaken for Oliver Queen in a few stories in other books when he shows up there. So I was a big fan of this book, and it's really held up well. I've been rereading them for reviews on my channel over at Bad Comic Review.
Yeah, I used to read those, man. That was something I got into when I was younger. I love that freaking Warlord series.
I did too, man. It was a lot of fun. And Mike Grell did a ton of work on these, and they're just so much fun. There's an evil wizard, and the characters evolve. Like, he has to fight what he thinks is his son, accelerated aging, but it's actually a clone, and he has to kill him, and it's crazy. It's crazy. So that's my pitch.
1 to 50, eh? Okay. You did just remind me of something that I should have been doing the whole stream, but again, I'm not a professional, so I can get away with it. remember to like and subscribe, people. This is our 300 subscriber special. We passed that a little while ago, so it's our passing 300 subscriber special. We really appreciate everybody in chat that showed up and everybody who's listening in the future. Thanks for checking us out. And by all means, if you enjoyed it, share with your friends and subscribe for more content like this. The links to, if you're not watching Tug, what are you doing? I put links to
get here if you're not watching Tug.
It's not like our own fan base is populating the chat. I know it's true, but the links to both of Tug's channels are below in the description if you haven't, as well as links to his Twitter, and links to Jim Healis's Twitter is down there as well to his Blue Mamba comic shop is now down there. So on to my pitch for today, and I'm pitching this particular one for 3 reasons. 1, to stick it to quiz, and because I find that funny. 2, because it's just appropriate, and 3, because I think, in my opinion, he's the greatest comic book creator of all time.
Oh, great. Oh, 300. Okay. No.
I'm pitching 300 because it's our 300 subscriber special, because Frank Miller is awesome.
Truth be told, I like 300, dude. I actually do have a hardback copy of that.
If yeah, as do I. I'm not just pitching it because of the funniness of 300. It's just during Frank Miller month, I did pitch 300, and well, I was limited to 4 comics, so I had to pick sparingly, and the guy's got a lot of stuff out there, right? But the film is obviously way more famous than the graphic novel, than the original ever was from Dark Horse. But it's so worth checking out. It is beautiful art, really well told. I mean, when you just there we go, chapter 1, honor, and you see what an excellent job they did bringing this comic book to life on the live screen. It's so well done. You can just stare at it, and you get to see where a lot of the lines come from and where Miller excels in minimalist wordplay. For honor's sake, for glory's sake, we march.
Oh, like, now do the Kwanzaa voice.
he does so much with so few words. 3 days out, merciless heats, throats go dry, young Stelios gets dizzy, unpardonable. Like, it holds you. And I've read this again and again, and it's sequential storytelling at its best. It's just such a great example of what Frank Miller's capable of, and you understand why it got decided upon to tell a movie out of. It's a great tale, and it works out so well. Even if you've seen the film, this will just amplify your appreciation for this story. So yeah, absolutely recommend it all the way. So that's my pitch.
Not only that, this is one of the few bits where Zack Snyder actually, did something good. He used actual panels from that comic as storyboards for setting up his cinematic shots for the movie.
Oh yeah, and what a great example of great sequential storytelling when it goes from A to B to C. We were talking about the Glory and Evangeline comic. It was last week or the week before that, where the person could not tell through sequential storytelling what was happening. At one moment, Kung Fu Jesus was standing in one position, and at the next, he's backhanding a guy that was just in front of him the moment before. There's no connection from panel to panel to panel. But when you can take a comic and actually storyboard a movie off of it, it's telling a story in a flowing way.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's a very good point.
So we have our 2 guests left, and I will not force them, if they don't want to do a pitch, because I didn't tell them that they had to.
Looks like Jim's already ready.
Is Jim ready? Is he ready to go? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Let's have it.
You talked about religion in comics, and this is something that came out actually recently, was The Brave and the Bold with Batman and Wonder Woman. And it touches on the Celtic pagan religion gods, and it actually does a decent telling of the story. It it doesn't pander to it. It doesn't sugarcoat any of the histories of these characters or these Celtic gods, and it shows how all of these historical figures, these gods that in the Celtic pantheon, once walked the earth, and does it with a bit of reverence. And impressively enough, this was written, penciled, and inked all by Liam Sharp, as opposed to what we normally see today, where you have 16 people working on a book.
Yeah.
And so I as I read this, I'm looking at this and going, okay, well, this was really a labor of love for Liam Sharp. If he's writing the story and doing pencils and inks on it, he really wanted to tell the story. And it goes through and it talks about the stories about how one of the Celtic gods, they've passed through into the other world, which is the Celtic afterlife, and the gods themselves willingly shut themselves off into the other world so that they wouldn't disturb mankind. So they would let mankind develop on their own. And one of the leading gods had gotten tired of it, gotten bored, and realized that being trapped in this world was doing nothing but causing constant warring and factioning among each other. So he needed to find a way out. So he was able to reach into the world of mankind and find someone who was willing to sacrifice themselves through what looked like some sort of possession, or taking advantage of the current devotion that is found in New Age religions to the old Celtic gods, and found someone who was willing to trade places with him. And it opened the door, thus allowing all of these Celtic gods into the world of mankind, wreaking tons of havoc, releasing giants upon the world, releasing these gods upon the world. And it's up to Batman and Wonder Woman to work with one of these Celtic gods that you see on the cover that I'm displaying to solve the murder of one of the kings, and in solving it, they find out about this whole plot to open the door to the world of man. And when they solve it, they're able to reclose the door and get this person to admit that their fault and set things right again. So just when we were talking about religion in comics, this is the first thing that came to my mind, because it's personal for me. So
I would call that a successful pitch. I have made a note. I want to get this and read it. I've never heard of it, and I'm all over this. Yeah,
it's nice that it's a quick 6-issue story. It can be cranked out, in one sitting. It's not, it's not convoluted at all. And if you have any appreciation for Celtic mythology or the Celtic gods, whatever, you'll see that Liam actually does a good job at treating them well, and if he isn't involved in the Celtic Reconstructionist faith, religion, whatever you want to call it, he at least did some decent research on these characters.
Cool, nice pitch. So that leaves us with Tug, assuming he's still with us. Hasn't gone off to.
I'm still here. All right, I'll pitch. I'll go with the. Actually, I just finished it. The Witcher, the library edition, I suppose it is. Yeah, the Witcher Library Edition, Volume 1. I mean, it's a newer book that's out. Actually, Amazon has it for, instead of $50, you can get it for like 27 if you really wanted to score a cheap book to try it out. It basically, I want some sword and sorcery, so we get a little bit of that in a Witcher setting. Only, you have a Witcher vanquishing whatever kind of monsters you come across. It reminds me more of a newer way to tell a Solomon Kane story. And I've always been transfixed with the Solomon Kane stories, particularly when he's dealing with monsters, except some of these are, I don't know, there's a tragedy that is captured in some of the tales that I think works out really well. There's you would see that in early Conans, the way that they were told. You would find a lot of tales, they're not meant to be happy. They're just meant to be told. And I like that. I am, again, I like that, especially when you look at the Solomon Kane type character, one that's, bringing whatever to the heathen, that's going in and looking at some type of untamed, uncharted world. And for the library edition, you're basically getting four comic runs. You get House of Glass, which is solid. Well, you get 4 stories, let's just say. So I can't remember how many comics that actually entails, but it's a pretty damn big book. Let's see. I think it tells on the back, maybe. Let me see. So yeah, it collects the first 5 issues of the main storyline, plus secondaries, plus a one shot that's never been collected. So I mean, basically you're getting 3 solid runs plus a one shot. Like I say, for $27, if you catch it on sale or at the price it's at Amazon, it's not really a big deal.
Nice.
Sounds good. I've been really curious about the Witcher games. Have you played the games? Would you recommend them?
Yeah, I like them. You gotta have a lot of time to burn. I like the last Witcher game. I mean, you do when you get in. It's got an interesting fighting style. I mean, you can check it out online. The only problem with it is, you can ruin certain things by checking it out. But I mean, it's a cheap game now. You can pick up one of the Game of the Year editions or something like that for really cheap. And you don't need. That's another thing with this. You don't need to be introduced to The Witcher to jump in and enjoy a tale. Like I say, it's just like a Solomon Kane, and not in the puritanical sense, but more in the type of character. This character is a little more, like I say, he's a Witcher versus, a Puritan, but still I could see them still being based on the same type of archetype.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched the old TV show from, I think it was from Germany or Poland, that they did based on The Witcher?
No.
I don't know.
Oh, I'll send you a link on Twitter, Tug. It's bad.
It's okay. I thought you were going somewhere positive with that.
No,
Yeah.
it's
the word tragic comes to mind.
You talking about the Hexer? Is that what you're talking about? The Hexer?
I don't know. I know it's based on the Witcher characters from the books.
Mm.
You may be talking about the Hexer. No, it's a Polish title. Anyway, if I'm thinking of the same thing you are, yeah. I've seen it. I think they're like 12 or 13, something like that. Episode. Yeah, I've seen that.
Well, as Jack pointed out, we are running long, and we hadn't even intended to run this long. And Jack or Tug stayed around longer than he said he would, so we appreciate that. But as a final note to round it out, yeah, this is our passing 300 subscribers special, and obviously all the thanks goes to my 2 co-hosts, Quiz and Jack. You guys are here with me every week, and it's greatly appreciated. I have. Well, I'm getting there. I have a lot of fun having these conversations with you guys, and that there's an audience out there that actually is willing to listen to us nerd out and yammer on these topics and talk about stuff in and around comic books is just great. Chat's awesome. You guys come here and ask questions and have great conversation every week, and we certainly appreciate that. All our subscribers are just the best. If you're listening and you like the content, by all means, subscribe. We're going to keep on doing it for as long as there's people willing to listen to us yammer. Umbrella Guy, thank you so much for coming by. We really appreciate it. It was a great conversation. And Jim Healis, of course. Jim's been here many times, and we certainly appreciate him always coming by and adding in his 2 cents that are always well thought out and reason to enjoy the conversation.
Thank you.
So if you haven't subscribed to Umbrella Guy, although I don't understand why you wouldn't have, that's probably what brought you here in the first place, please do so. His content is awesome and damn near daily, if not twice daily, which is what makes it great. Final thoughts, anybody?
Nope.
Yeah, the crickets have revealed. No final thoughts. All right. Thanks once again to everyone who subscribed. And that is all. Have a good night, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Later.